They've already established themselves.
Yeah, I think I've learned the same 3 chords on a guitar 97 times. Hey guys, hey everybody who is new here. We are playing smooth jazz right now to get your Friday really kick in. We're going to start in a few minutes, guys, as everybody cycles in. For anybody who's new, remember to change your messaging in the chat to everybody instead of just hosts and panelists so that everybody can participate, see your messages, or else just me and Joe can see it. So if you want to make fun of Anchorman and this music, make sure to change your chat to everybody.
So here's a little fun fact as, we're getting people in here. Do you actually know why it is easier for young children to learn a second language or multiple languages?
Well, I mean, I don't know. They have better neuroplasticity. Their brain's developing more.
Actually, it has to do with the muscle memory and the formation of their jaw and the way they enunciate and pronounce their words. So as they're getting used to how to pronunciate and pronounce words and in that muscle memory flow, it is easier for them to structure in different pathways while they're still developing than for, say, you and I, who are so used to, and the way our dialect is so used to one way, to go a completely different way.
Makes sense. 60% of the time, it works every time. I'm so glad we have Anchorman lovers in here. I'm going to be that awful person and say I liked Anchorman 2 way better. Nobody liked Anchorman 2 better except for me. Okay, guys, we're going to be done with this music now. I hope you all enjoyed that. We're just waiting probably about 1 more minute, guys, for people to cycle in. I know it's Friday, so thank you so much for spending an extra hour on your Friday for self-care and dedicating something back to yourself. Like, kudos to you, because I know that's not easy. Thanks, Joe, for speaking on a Friday. Absolutely. I'm sure you had a lot of things to do, and I put you on a Friday, so I appreciate you. Super excited for this chat that we're going to have. And yeah, so, okay, guys, well, it's 8:05. The late bloomers can come in when they do, but we'll go ahead and start here. So welcome everyone to the Year of the Man, Day 5. If you don't know me, my name is Elise Micheals, and I'm a men's mental health coach. And for the last 2 years, I've helped men find purpose and passion again by healing subconscious trauma. And I really started this summit as a way to give back to men who might not have access to mental health resources, tools, coaches, creators. So we've got 7 days, 7 speakers. We're on day 5 of giving you this content for free all 7 days. But if you want access to the coaches, to the creators, you want to ask Joe some questions after he does his segment today, and you want the recordings forever, please make sure to purchase VIP if you haven't already. And Sally's going to put that in the chat if you haven't. So remember that this summit is specifically to help men become better fathers, coaches, spouses, and men. There is no other summit like it, and we're so excited to have you here. So with that being said, we would like to bring to the stage today Joe Buttice. Oh my God, I said it wrong again.
You got nervous, that's why.
I know, I messed up. Please pronounce it for me.
Buttice.
Buttice. Joe Buttice. It's Italian, okay? We're bringing him to the stage. He's a motivational speaker, coach. He's amassed a following over 700,000 on TikTok with his daily messages to inspire men to be better leaders and fathers. So that's why we brought him here today. And he's going to talk to us about masculine, feminine energy and also, alpha energy and his own journey through that. So thank you so much, Joe, for being here, and over to you.
All right, no, absolutely. Thank you so much. Especially thank you so much for all those listening, along with Elise over here, who's been so generous enough to afford me this opportunity. Now, I will try to make this as entertaining as I possibly can, because the idea of masculine and feminine energy.
Joe, you're muted.
So, with that being said, there are little technical issues there. The best way to relate this, and such, because not a lot of people have heard of these terms, is the idea of alpha and beta energy. All right, the alpha male, the beta male. Yeah. So, with that being said, 10, 20 years ago, we didn't really hear about. With that, as social media and everything progressed, I don't know how, I don't know where, and I don't know in what way, but somehow, some way, the idea of the alpha male presented itself, which in turn, as an opposite, the idea of the beta male presented itself. And from there, it just evolved, right? Because I've heard of sigma, omega, and all these other terms. The problem is when society tends to have an established term for something that is trending as such, that term tends to develop some sort of fluidity, right? So you ask one person, hey, what does it mean to be an alpha male? You ask another person, what does it mean to be an alpha male? Take it even a step further, you ask a male or a female what it means to be an alpha male, what it means to be a beta male. I can almost guarantee you they will give you two different definitions. So where do we draw that line, right? What is the true definition and how does that correlate to our life and how have I experienced that into my life? Along with what can you even take away? Like what purpose does that serve? Why would you even care about your masculine energy or your feminine energy? What does that even have anything to do with you in a sense? So with everything being so fluid, right, and everything being so trendy, what you can actually take away from that is it means something to a sense, right? They have the right idea. They're marketing in the wrong way. That's why everything becomes so fluid. Where it actually comes from, right, and where it actually stems from is masculine and feminine energy. So when someone says that is an alpha male, that is an alpha, female, that is a beta male, and everything along those lines. Granted, I don't know anything about the sigma, omega, where that came from, how that came about. We're only going to focus on the alpha and beta. Why? When you think alpha, in a general sense, you think badass. You think leather jacket, don't give two F's about whatever, maybe multiple women stacked up. Kind of paint that picture in your head, right? With the idea of beta, however, obviously it's a derogatory term, right? Used for a more weaker male, someone who maybe can't stand up for themselves, someone who's maybe smaller in frame, or even in that sense, even larger in frame. Granted, there's some sort of disproportion, right? It's one extreme or the other. Life isn't always black and white. You don't have these two extremes. The idea where this comes from is that there needs to be some sort of mesh, some sort of flow. What they're alluding to is masculine versus feminine. You have a guy who's more in his masculine, you have a guy who's more in his feminine. The proper balance is that in between. Yes, gentlemen, it is completely and utterly okay to allow that feminine energy to flow into you. So to break this down for you, right? How does this even apply in your life? How have I even experienced this? What does this even mean? So we actually need to establish the foundation of first masculine and feminine energies. Then from there, we can take that and apply it later on in our life and what the importance of that actually is. So with the idea of masculine energy, correct? Masculine energy is purposeful. It is intentful. It derives everything with purpose, control, an end goal, very controlled, directional, right? That's why a lot of the things that I talk about, and a lot of things I preach, even on my coaching calls, for example, the main thing and the biggest problem that I seem to address here is that idea of purpose. So, in a sense, they are lacking that attribute of masculine energy. They are lacking that purpose. They are lacking that end result. So, what is the opposite of that? What is the feminine? It flows, right? It's all about energy and feelings. Given a perfect example of how the two can coincide. Man gets into an argument with a woman. Man seeks solution. He wants to end the argument. Find the problem, identify, solve, and done. The feminine will feel that energy. and it'll flow. So she will try to continue out because at the end of the day, she just wants to be heard. She wants those feelings. She takes in and reproduces as such. So that can be a heavy, heavy disconnect if there's not a proper flow of both. Another example, I guess, moving forward, away from the communication emotional, right? Moving towards the purpose driven, right? That end goal. Again, with the issues that I see with a lot of with a lot of coaching calls that I have with the clients that I'm dealing with, is because they're either too much in their masculine, which can be destructive, gentlemen, or they are too much in their feminine. These are just how our psychologies work. That is our innate natural instinct. I know, especially in today's society, taking a little side note, everyone is all about, oh, you can't identify this, say that, everyone is equal. The way we think and the way we process information, along with the way that our mind fires, is different for a reason. But when everything is working as it should and as it is called to do, things work. There is unison. So, with that being said, guys who are too masculine, here's where that issue lies. It often becomes destructive. This is a major problem that I see with maybe not so much this generation, but the previous generation of work, 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 not giving themselves that emotional break, that emotional release, knowing how to allow things to flow through them and to be able to open up on any level. They will work themselves into the ground. You don't take care of your mental state, you don't take care of your emotional state. Not even talking about the spiritual, right? Believing something greater than you. That increases stress, that increases cortisol, right? There are actual chemical responses to so much overload, so much stimulus. And studies have shown that when you have a higher level of stimulus, right, that higher level of cortisol and stress and everything like that, that also alludes to an onset of diseases, right? You are literally working yourself to death. Again, balance, right? The opposite of that, the opposite of not having, enough, right? You don't work too much. You're not working anything, right? Your focus is so off. So if a man is not doing too much with work, the other major issue that I see is they're focused completely on something else. What's that something else? Women. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, right? What I mean is the guy has no purpose in his work, no purpose in, his directional goals or anything. So for some reason, whether that may be a childhood trauma, some sort of experience that he had, something he's missing in here or in here, he will cling on to his woman or multiple women or constantly having someone there. So he has some sort of focus because he can't focus on himself. What that often happens, right? When that happens, you will see constant relationship failures, right? Ins and outs, depression, no drive, this, that, financial issues. Heaven forbid if you have a kid or you're married, that brings legality issues, right? So we see both sides of the story, both sides of the extreme. Pay attention because even if you look on the inside, that is a lot more common than you might think. And I am most certainly a victim of that. I have played both parts. I have worked myself to death, and I have put my partner on a pedestal. All in turn is self-destructive to yourself. Perfect example that I know for a fact, way more guys can relate to this than I would even like to admit, just from being able to talk to hundreds and hundreds of people on a weekly, if not a daily basis. Break up. All right. Get with a girl, not focusing on your greater purpose, gentlemen, right? Your masculine energy, your end goal. I don't know what to do. I've lost myself. I can't take it anymore. I'm sitting there going, dude, why? Why? Oh, because she's not there. Okay. What else are you doing? Nothing. because they identified so much of themselves with that other person, that level of comfortability, that when that other person leaves, they don't know what to do. A part of them is missing. They lost a piece of themselves, right? So even the best advice that I can give to get to that actual masculine energy, which we all need to slowly and surely come into, because this is a slow learning process, is to first be able to have that purpose, find yourself without the distraction of others, right? Without the distraction of other people. So what I was going to go back to with the story of myself and how I ended up falling into this is every girl I seem to have dated, coming into my high school years and even a little bit after, I am always that person that likes to make sure things are taken care of. Things are settled. I'm working towards it. I invest everything into it, and anything they want, boom, just to make them happy. What that did was, one, it led me into a lot of toxic relationships, because toxic people seem to identify very, very quickly that you have no self-respect. Again, I wasn't in my true masculine energy. That led to a lot of heartache, a lot of lessons, but a lot of self-reflection to lead me to that. So that is the masculine side. That is what happens when you don't have that masculine energy. So, gentlemen, let's move into, how do you have that masculine energy? Well, first and foremost, hang out with other dudes, feed off them, grow with them, right? I hate when I'm talking to some of these guys and I'm like, okay, well, what does your community look like, right? Your community, as in like the people you hang around with most. Oh, we go to the bar, we drink. Oh, we watch sports. There's no growth, right? It's not beneficial in any sort of way. You're flowing. That's it. You're in the feeling, you're in the motion. There's no purpose behind it, right? Gentlemen, you need to surround yourself with people that deliver intent, people that live and move with intention, because you yourself will pick up on that. You yourself will strive to be like that. Common saying, I know it's cliche to say, but it is so true, it's unreal. You are the sum of the 5 closest people around you. That saying goes around a million times, but the more you actually pay attention, the more you walk through life, that becomes so true, it is ungodly. And again, that could either drive you towards your true purpose and your masculine energy, or drive you far away. All depends on the influence that you have. The only other quick thing to help identify, get that purpose, get that mindset of that end goal, get that proper, genuine masculine energy that is true, that is meek, that is applicable, is through lessons. Always seek self-improvement. And with that self-improvement, you always aim to give back. So with that, as you are improving, right, you should also be giving back, because as your masculine energy, as men, our natural instinct is to provide. That doesn't necessarily always have to be financial, as society likes to tell us. Oh, men are providers. Men are providers. They're X, Y, and Z, whatever it may be. Under what law does it have to be financial? Gentlemen, you could be a provider of knowledge. You could be a provider of comfort. You could be a provider of emotion, mentor, company, in some sense. So in order to fully understand your purpose, right, which will help you be a better man, because you have a foundation in which you can grow to help keep you grounded with whatever life may throw at you. You need to be able to understand what you give back that fulfills you the most. You learn, you grow with what you were passionate about. Then you figure out how to give back in a way that fulfills you the most. Leave the monetary bullshit out of this. Leave it out. That means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. Things come and go, tangible, just nothing. I can lose everything tomorrow. My heart and my mind shall remain. So, gentlemen, figure out what you take in that brings you the most here and here. Take that and give it back. Right? Now, masculine set aside. What does even the feminine energy might have to even come into play with any of this? Because I know, especially with the harder guys, especially like the old school gentlemen, the blue collar workers, the military men, police officers, first responders, those MFers that just sit there with a stone cold face. They got told to man up in their childhood. Maybe they scraped an E, got told to man up, men don't cry. They feminine. I don't paint my nails, wear dresses, do any of that stuff. Why do you even think about being feminine? What good does it serve me? Which I'm going to tell you right now. Right? Towards the beginning of the talk, when I talked about men overworking themselves, right? They are too masculine. They have too much masculine energy to where it becomes toxic and damaging. That's because they are locking that flow of feminine energy through them. There's a reason why men's suicide rates are so damn high. Right? As I had said earlier, the idea of the feminine energy is to flow. It is emotion. It is feeling. It is that giving back in a way that just goes, right? It flows through. It allows that release. It's compassion and empathetic. Too many men run into the problem where they are so afraid, right, of that. And sometimes for good reason, right? Sometimes it's for a good reason. A lot of men don't want to be like that. They don't want to have to bottle everything up. They don't want to have to hide and have that stone cold fuck you face. But because of what society has told them, right? Because of what their partner may have said, because of maybe what their father may have said growing up, we train ourselves. We put those guards up, right? It's not uncommon. Not at all. Not in the slightest. There's only 3 people in my entire life that have ever seen me shed a single tear. I'll get choked up, right? I might get teary-eyed or whatever. There's only 3 people that I can remember have ever seen me shed a single tear. Right? Just the way I was ingrained. It's just the way I was, my character, my upbringing. It's not an uncommon thing. I deal with that same exact thing, the idea of showing emotion. The most common reality because of it, relationship with death, trauma with relationships. How do we go over this, right? How do you use this, gentlemen? Because this being, in my opinion, such a heavy factor when it comes to, male depression, male suicide rates, men not being able to want to come and find, right, their purpose, what they're doing, what they want to do, shut off to the world. Well, 2 things. 1, cold hard truth of reality, cold hard truth about life. Whenever you wish to associate yourself with anything, job, family, relationship, friendship, right? There's always going to be associated risk. I can't tell you how many times I get asked though, oh, I like this person a lot, but I got cheated on or used, abused, whatever it may be. And I can't trust, right? I can't open up. They're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you're gonna have to open up. Like, what? I'm like, let's think about it. 1, communicate the fact that you have these boundaries, but you understand that there is risk associated with it. And how well you like the person, how much you love the person, care about the person, you need to understand that there will always be an associated risk because you don't control them. You can't control what they do, what they think, what they say, any other outside variable but your own response. So it's all up to you to be able to understand, right, that associated risk, the pros, the cons, what's going on. How do we work on that, right? How do we get that perfect balance, right, of strong masculine energy, purpose-driven, self-respect, end goal determined, disciplined, right, purposeful. Move with intent. With that ability to show proper, genuine emotion where it's needed. Let things flow where it's needed. Balance in, out, whatever it may be. The single most best advice that I can give, and this is how I have come to allow things to best flow. After you find that purpose, because that should be your primary goal before you try to even, entertain and do other things with anything else. Find that purpose, find the reason why you are here, period. When associating yourself with others and letting things flow and everything like that, the best way to go about it is almost like emotional maturity. Know how, when, in what way, and to whom you show your emotions, your feelings, your interior to. There is a time, place, proper for everything. Find that balance. It took me years of trial, error, abuse, anything under the sun, honestly, to finally figure out. Sometimes it takes a little mentor like myself, Elise as well, to be able to help you and guide you through things that we may not see or lie to ourselves about. But at the end of the day, you need to have that understanding that you need that purpose. You need that, however it may be, and it is possible. It is possible. I am a walking up example of you can fucking do it. Stop mentally blocking yourself and be able to get to work. Right? Understand where those feelings come from. Understand where those movements are coming from, why you're doing it, who you're talking to, who you're associating yourself with. Pick up on those responses. Understand.
I love that, Joe. If I could just cut in for a second, because I wanted to emphasize that point. It was so good. When you're talking about, you have to find someone, there's a specific time when it's appropriate to share, and there's a specific person who it's appropriate to share with. And, you said earlier on with the masculine energy, whether you're heterosexual or not, the masculine will gravitate towards the feminine when it comes to emotions, because females are allowed to have emotions, right? And men aren't. So when men encounter a woman who's just a woman and they're holding all that inside, they'll tend to emotionally dump, right? And then you pour it into the wrong person because you're not aware, right? Do you tend to see this as something that's true?
Early on, that emotional dump, right, where they just, there you go. Usually tends to occur when those guards aren't fully up. Unless obviously it's from a childhood trauma where those guards are up from the very beginning. They try to have that openness or that that oneness with whomever it may be. Oftentimes in the wrong way, in the wrong manner, and like you said, definitely to the wrong person, and that backfires, which tends to make those guards go up again.
Absolutely. That's so, and I love you said it tends to make the guards go up again, because if we, especially because men are not taught how to process their emotions, that's actually kind of like the role of the mother, technically, if we're going to get into the masculine feminine energy. But since men are taught to shame their emotions and things like that, they don't know how to process them. And then the second that you're starting to go into this world where you're testing it out, and if you do it to the wrong person, you close back up again, it's like the littlest things are going to block you from opening back up. And that's something that just like really sucks for men. So I mean, I would say, I saw some men in here say that they connect better with females because they've helped them grow more. But really getting in touch with your masculinity is about surrounding yourself by strong masculine men who are going to allow you to experience that feminine energy. I mean, that's just what I've seen.
Right. I want to make a very, very critical point here with what you said about that's the role, like the mother, right? In terms of like that showing and that showing of emotion and having that connection, because that stems from early childhood, right? The expression of emotion that we like to give. So I want to emphasize this point. I want you to actually pay attention and actually think about where I'm going with this. One of the biggest things that's on the rise right now, it's honestly a fucking tragedy that it's happening, is of absent fathers, like absent, like completely gone, whatever, in the household, right? So as you said, the mother's in charge of, showing that child emotion, empathy, love, compassion, that closeness, right? The sharing of feelings, which is why most mothers will get the child in child custody because mothers are essential in the earlier development years. They develops, that loving character. The father, however, is essential to develop that mind, and especially in young men, how to be a man, how to handle those emotions, how to handle himself accordingly, how to know when and where to show those emotions and when not to show those emotions. One of the videos I got the most hate about is when I said, don't show weakness to your woman because that is unattractive and she is most prone to leave you, but instead show vulnerability. Vulnerability shows that you're still a man, but you're showing your humanity, right? Weakness is, I can't handle my shit, crying over spilt milk, right? Vulnerability is, hey, I want to be mature about this and communicate this with you effectively of something that is actually going on, something I'm actually dealing with, something I'm actually working towards to fix, but I just want to have that level of communication with you on why I may be acting a certain way. So when these young men grow up in a fatherless household with only the mother trying to show him how to come up, and I hate how, it's like, oh, I'm, the mom and the dad at the same time. It's like, no, you can't, because you can't show him how to be a man. Just like how a father can't show his daughter how to be a woman as she's growing up. The problem happens, right, where guys get into these relationships fresh and new and try to do this and get whatever, those guards go up, is because they only know how to show, express emotion, and communicate as their mother had taught them, like a female in their feminine energy, which is unattractive to a feminine woman. So what happens is he's taking everything that his mother has taught him. And I just want to say this: I will never ever not give respect to a single mom who got screwed over and is trying the best she can to raise a son, right? That that's just situational, so they still have to get that respect. But the young men in a father's household still need some sort of father figure because they'll try to show that emotion of love, compassion, whatever feelings to the girl in the real world and figure out, oh shit, that hurts. I can't do that again. Done. And Lord knows how many years or bad experiences, will come out of just one really bad time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought that up, how essential fathers are, because we don't emphasize in society. We really place a lot of pressure on, like, oh, the mother, like we we like idolize single moms, and like you said, like it is, I can't, I'm not a parent, so I can't even imagine being a parent, but also being a single parent. But like you said, like a mom is a mom, and you can't be the mom and the dad, because when you do, the signals are crossed. And this is actually in a book by No More Mr. Nice Guy. Actually, a therapist worked solely with men for like 25 years and wrote this book. And he talked about the study of men who had single mothers, or it was like they were dating their mom, right? Because the mother kind of used them as the male figure in their lives, right? And so the signals get crossed. You go into the dating world and then you don't know how to do these things. And so we really do need to emphasize the importance of father figures, because the thing is, then those males go off and be fathers, and they don't know how to have that masculine energy, because they're so attracted to having women as friends, because that's all they've been surrounded by. So that's why, even I am a female coach for men, and I tell my clients, you need to have masculine figures in your life. Like, I am here to support you. I'm teaching you these basics on how to, not like fix your life, but like how to get it back in alignment. And, then I have the brotherhood, which is the men's group. Like, you need to have strong men in your life, just like I need to have feminine women in my life, which I avoided for a long time, so because I have a more masculine energy, right? It's a spectrum. So make sure you're balanced on your spectrum, because if you're imbalanced, it's going to create imbalance. So I love that you brought that up, Joe. That's a great point.
No, absolutely. And I do want to say this one piece of advice, and almost like this affirmation to any of the guys watching right now. You are a leader, right? Whether you think so or not, whether you have that title, position, whatever it may be, there are always people watching you, whether you believe it or not. Coworkers, colleagues, associates, whatever. There's always someone watching you, which is a perfect opportunity to exhibit good male role model figures, right? Be that good example. that representation of what it means to be a good masculine male. And I want to drive home the importance of, teachers, coaches, anyone that has easily access or has a lot of involvement with those younger guys, right? With those guys that are still trying to figure out their way. You are essential and could be, the saving grace, right? For a kid who doesn't have a father, who doesn't have that role model, and kind of act as that role. And you have no idea the influence that you might have or the path you might redirect them, right, in their life. Right. So pay very close attention to that.
That's so good, Joe. I like when I like claps for that, because I'm sure like a lot of people here, even if you had like a really good upbringing, you still had like father or mother figures in school that were teachers or coaches. Like everybody has like that one coach that really pushed them or something like that, like it's so important.
Mine was Coach OD.
You remember, right? Like my principal, like me and him were like best buds. Like I would just go to his office and talk to him. And those were the people that tried to help me, plan out my life, and so I'm glad that you brought that up, because every single day you're impacting someone. And that's why self-care, and I keep looking down because I'm looking at the chat like I'm talking to you guys. I should look at the camera. Self-care isn't selfish because you're always impacting someone, even when you think you're not. So as much as you can dedicate to the inner work, do it. I know we're just kind of like on a motivational rant here, but as we're nearing the end of our talk, I want to give it back to Joe. Do you have any action items for these men that they can take away, that they can start accessing these different energy bodies within them?
So no one's going to do the work for you. I'm just going to put that out there first and foremost, right? Yes, I can tell you all the different things to do and how to implement everything like that. No one's going to do the work for you. This has to be some sort of self-accountability, right? And understanding where you're going wrong, where you might be lacking, where you might be unfulfilled, and understand that you have to take action, right? Yes, you can get on a coaching call with me and I can help you understand all these things, but I tell all my clients, you have to take action. I can only hold you so accountable, but you'd be amazed at how people go, oh, I did this. And I'm like, ask a few more questions, and it turns out they didn't even do that to the full extent. That's your starting point, right? Then you take action. If you need the help, you need the guidance. I have my links. I have the things that I offer, as well as Elise, and I'm pointing up because you're now up here. But you need some sort of guidance or direction. It's hard to do by yourself. And if you want to aim to do this by yourself, right? I don't need a coach. I don't need a mentor. I do it on my own. Your life, you're your own man. So be it. Go back to one of the points that I made. One of the very key points into truly getting into your masculine energy, right? That take action, that knowledge and giving back. One thing that I want to drive home here, right? If you are truly wanting to grow and become the best version of your man that you could possibly be, is tackle 4 pillars, right? There's your direction, right? There's your little call to action. Make sure your physical is okay. Your physical health, what you eat, how you take care of yourself, whatever it may be, because that directly affects you, which directly affects your outside life and affects other people as collateral. The next is going to be your emotional state. How are you taking care of your mind? What are you feeding it? It sucks when we're sad. What do? We listen to sad boy music because, yeah, that's really going to help. Everything that you take in, what you see, and everything like that feeds your mind, right? It affects your actual mentality and your mental state and your emotional state. What are you putting in your mind? Third, I can count, I promise. Who are you surrounding yourself with? That sense of community, right? As I talked about previously, that whole idea of the people around you have a direct impact on the way you maybe do yourself, live your life, what you do outside of, your daily routines. And that can be even expanded outside of your close group. Guys, where are you working? Is your work environment toxic? Do you not realize that maybe the work environment is so toxic that you might be bringing it home to your family and taking it out on them because you don't even realize it? Gentlemen, you have to pay attention to these things. And then finally, it's a give and take how it goes over with people, but I want to address this very carefully, is your spiritual health. I'm not saying you have to believe in God, right? I will never push my viewpoints on anyone. I'm not saying you have to believe in Jesus and all that. What I am saying is you have to believe in something greater than you. You have to believe in something greater than you, because at the end of the day, we're only sentient human beings. right? Our mind, our bodies can only push so far with an end date. Finding something to believe in bigger than you, right? I don't care if you're pagan like my partner Chaz, if you're like me who believes in Jesus, if you believe in the Quran, uh, all the other million different religions. I'm going to draw a blank just from decision overload. What that does is help drives that purpose narrative home. That is the hammer. That is the seal. Because why even bother? Right? Why even bother having purpose, a partner, a family, all these other different things if there's no reason? If we are here completely random, on accident, stemming from a mushroom after your life ends, there's nothing more after that, then why even bother? Why try? Why get up in the morning? Because at the end of the day, there's no even purpose. You're gone, done. At that sense, you can just look at it as anarchy, right? Gentlemen, do not fall into nihilism. So why bother? Why anything? Because when those days get hard, and I've been there a couple of times myself when why what's the point? Why even do this? Whether that is a failed suicide attempt, whether that is just falling into such a depression where you don't even want to get up, let alone open up your eyes, right? That bigger purpose that lies above you, that I am put here for a reason. It is not on accident, and what I am doing right now has a greater impact outside of my life. When that ends, it spreads like a water ripple. That's the thing that will not only keep you here, right? Keep you alive, but also help you get up, help you find that reason. It's almost like having a reason to need the reason, right? That is your big picture. So, gentlemen, I want you to take those 4 pillars, right? Physical, emotional, community, and spiritual. Take that. That is your action plan. That is your starting point. If you really want to go and do this, that's where you start. That is your foundation. You can't build anything up after that until you've laid that sound foundation down. Whew.
Oh, guys. If you thought Joe did an insane, amazing job, put a 1 in the chat. Claps for Joe. Thanks so much for being
Thank
here,
you.
guys, on a Friday night. Look at that. Look at all the support. Loving it. Everyone who is not VIP, please have a fantastic rest of your Friday. We're going to go, and whoever wants to ask Joe questions, please start typing your questions in the chat so we can start asking him. And I really appreciate you guys for being here. Hey guys, and welcome back to the VIP with Joe. He's going to be answering questions from the people in the summit. So we have the first question. What if the people who give you the most growth are of the other sex? Like, is it okay?
Say that one again.
So you talked about, men surrounding themselves with other men, and I said women surrounding themselves with other women, and he said, well, what if the people who help you grow the most are of the opposite sex? So like, if he's a man, can he just hang out with women because that's who he feels helps him grow?
Okay, so I just want to say that when asking questions, you have to word it very carefully, because when you articulate your questions, each part of that question has a meaning. So when you say grow, that is a very generalized sense. How are they helping you grow? In what way are they helping you grow? Why? Do you think that they are helping you grow? Because I want to address this. Are they helping you grow just as a person, right? Grow as in helping you, move forward in life? Or are they helping you grow as a man? Do you recognize that you aren't growing as a man, right? In what ways are they helping you grow? Because yes, it is good to have that self growth with the opposite sex, because with guys intertwining in friendships, relationships, whatever, with women, a proper feminine woman can help bring those emotions out of a guy and let those feelings flow and help teach him to express those appropriately. But I hope I kind of answered that in the right sense.
Yeah, I mean, does that resonate with the person who asked the question? I mean, what I would say also is, I used to have this resistance too. I think a lot of people grow up with this, like, oh, I only get along with guys, or oh, I only get along with girls, right? And you hold on to that. But I would just like look into your resistance. Like, if you've only been hanging around the same sex for a long time because you feel like that helps you grow, did they really help you grow? Because it sounds like if you're experiencing resistance, the opposite would help you grow more, right? Because when you lean into resistance, that's when you grow. So I just suggest challenging yourself, because not every, like, because I think I read earlier that it was like, oh, the men that I'm around, they don't want to grow, they don't want to do this. It just, not every man doesn't want to grow. It just sounds like the men you were hanging out with didn't want to grow, right? So challenge yourself to find those people. And when you lean into that resistance, that's what's going to help you grow more than hanging out with either or. That's what I would say.
Absolutely.
So I love this, guys. What other questions do we have? Or go ahead, Joe.
Well, no, I'll end that there because otherwise I could just keep talking, you talk, you talk.
I feel you.
You learn.
How does anger fit into this? So that's a great question. How does anger fit into with masculine or feminine energy?
So this is actually a very, very key topic, right? Because a lot of times when we think, oh, he's a toxic male, he's showing toxic masculinity, it's because they don't know what it actually means to be masculine. So, like I said before, the idea of being masculine is all about control, having that center and then driving forth with purpose, right? When you just handle everything with anger, you're quick anger, you have no emotional control, you just boom, you're out, right? Almost like the old school hot-headed Italian. That is not toxic masculinity, because masculinity in its nature is not toxic. If it is true masculinity, it is a lack of masculinity, right? Because he doesn't know how to control all those emotions flowing through him. I mean, Elise, correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like he's letting too much feminine energy flow through him because he has no control over his emotions and he's just letting every little thing flow out of him, right? He doesn't know how to control it and, be able to handle himself accordingly.
I would say it's an imbalance of both masculine and feminine energy when you let your emotions override, because if the feminine is balanced, the emotions are controlled as well. So yeah, I've said that too in my group coaching, that when you're in touch with your masculinity, you can control your emotions, right? Because also, I don't like, anger is associated with masculinity only because society has deemed that as the only acceptable emotion for men to have, is anger, being horny, and not having an emotion at all, right? Like, that's the only thing that's seen as manly. But like, when I think of toxic masculinity, I don't think of anything like that. I think about the rules that are placed on men, like, that are toxic. Not that masculinity is toxic. I just went on a rampage with that, but.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so we have another question here. And let us know, David, if that answered the question, or if you want us to elaborate a little more, because that was one of our shorter answers. So we have another question here. My dad was a strong part of my life, but was a police officer and didn't always get to be around me. I was left to essentially be raised by an incredibly abusive mother that did not allow me to show emotion. It was mentally, verbally, and physically abusive the moment I showed any form of weak emotion. Now I struggle connecting, communicating, and being vulnerable with my wife. How do I break down those steel walls that I have reinforced over and over my entire life?
That's a heavy one. Okay. All right. So the way we would address this is basically addressing it at its roots, right? In order to even address you and your present, and we won't even look at moving forward, right, and how you associate yourself with other people, we need to go back and address what went wrong at its roots. So it's going to take some sort of, meditations, a lot of self-reflection on your part, and understanding that you need to be able to forgive your mom and yourself, right? You need to be able to have that closure and understand that that part of your life is done. So, like I said, it's going to take a lot of self-reflection in the sense that you need to also get through your head and understand that that is not you anymore. One, time has moved on. You've grown. You've matured, and your mental state has also grown. So that is simply just going to take a lot of work in progress to drop those mental blocks. But again, as I keep talking about, is you need to be able to work off a foundation. If any one of those 4 pillars is off, it is going to be that much harder for one, you to be able to work through the mental blocks in your head and be able to have that sense of relief, but even to move forward even after that. So with that being said, This is going to take a lot of verbal communication with whoever you're even, trying to associate yourself with, even with friends, right? Like I said before, you need to tell them, hey, this is what I'm going through. Be patient. And in doing so, right, because this is a communication lack, there's a communication boundary that you're dealing with other people. Make sure if it's with the right person, right people, whenever it may be, that they help you understand and show you, okay, this is how you express your emotions. But you need to understand as well that there's always going to be that associated risk. Learn how to read people, learn how to identify, right? Grow and learn in that self-respect. So I know one of the books I always mention is, Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, Rational Male, the idea of, okay, this is the psychology of the dating scene. This should be your psychology with life. This is the reality of what goes on out here. This teaches you to not give a shit about anything else but the things you need to worry about, right? So Elise, if you wanted to add anything onto that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would add is remember that there's no quick fix to healing, especially when you're dealing with the trauma of an abusive parent, right? If you're not currently seeing like a therapist or counselor, I mean, Joe and I, we're great coaches. There are a lot of great coaches out there, and I'm even trauma therapy informed and trained. But the thing is, there's 2 stages of healing. And I think you were here the other night when I explained this, that the first stage helps you overcome behaviors on the surface level. And that can happen very, very quickly. But the second stage of change happens internally. And it's where you say, oh, I want to exercise because I want to take care of myself, because I deserve more. It gets to the root of the problem. And that always takes longer. And you need a healthy space and a healthy environment. I keep looking at the chat. I keep looking down. It takes a healthy space and a healthy environment to nurture that. Right. So like Joe was saying, when you explain things to people, there's going to be risk. Like I say, when you're talking about things like abuse and that stuff is so, it makes you feel so vulnerable because it was so painful, especially as a child. Like, don't take a risk on that at first. Get a professional to help you feel safe talking about it, right? Because the last thing that you want to do is close back up and make it harder for yourself. Like, and just know that it's going to take time. Like healing is not linear. Like, oh, I'm done now. It's like some days you're going to feel amazing. Some days you're going to be like, oh, this is crap. Like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And it kind of goes up and down while it's going up, right? So, and I just want to say, like, I appreciate you so much for feeling safe enough in this space to, say those things and ask us for help. But I also want to redirect you to be able to get a professional who's invested in you and your journey along with that. And Jamal in the chat also suggested, Jamal is also a certified counselor and he works in sex trafficking. He said, these habits to triggers have been inoculated for years. So you have your armor on as the defense is a place of comfort that is associated with harm. There will need to be sitting with the anger and doing the hard part of detangling the web and processing these emotions with someone who can live in that and help you process redemptively so it doesn't snowball. So like he said, he's a certified counselor. So that was his say. So like I said, me, Joe, we're coaches. Jamal's a counselor. So the combined power rangers of advice right there for you. So I hope that answered the question.
There's only one thing I do want to tag onto that, just because it was almost like a closing thought. If you want a little extra help, because I know we've stated it's going to take time, you need to slowly work yourself out of the habits that you've established. Check out the book Atomic Habits. If you ever noticed all these people with the New Year's resolutions, they try to make these major life changes and they always fall back on their old habits. It's because your mind creates homeostasis, so it'll always fall back on what it knows best. That's going to be your biggest hurdle to overcome, is it falling back on what it's comfortable about. Elicit micro changes in your life to slowly and over time work fully over all the things that you've been through.
I love it. That's a great book.
Yes.
It's very dense. I can't get out of my head how atomic means something small. I feel like it means something big, but it doesn't. And it disappoints me every time I think of the word. I'm like, man, that should mean big things.
Well, because it comes from the atomic bomb, which is a big thing, but
I know.
a big.
Awful. Okay, guys, so I know it's Friday. Oh, we have another good question or some clarity. This talk has given me some clarity. Interesting. I never knew why I related to girls so much when I was a boy and not much with the boys early on in my life. My dad left me early. Then when I was in an orphanage with boys, when I was in second grade, explains why I struggled at school. So yeah, I mean, anybody who's listening to this afterwards in the recording, like, this is just a side thought. Sometimes we can feel a lot of shame for how we've coped with things or, how we grew up. But just remember that, as you're growing up, you don't understand how the world works. And you're just basically in survival mode all the time because your brain is like a sponge soaking up, how do I get love? How do I feel validated? How do I feel accepted? Right. And we develop these behavior mechanisms that just, they are what they are. So however you've grown up or the habits that you had to do to survive, don't feel ashamed of it. Just see it as it is what it, like, it was what it was and it is what it is. And now you have the power to look at your life and what you're doing now and make changes. Like, hindsight and looking backwards doesn't do us any good to just like shame ourselves, like I shouldn't have done that, or I wish I wasn't this way. Like, you have the power now to change things. So just remember that. And that's how you can take control. We have another question here that is, what is the best way to handle a rocky moment in a relationship when it's so easy to overcompensate and try to fix things? That's great.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's a great question. The easiest way to address this is how well do you actually know your partner? Right? Do you know their love language? Do they know how they communicate? And also, do you know how they respond to anxiety or triggers such as stress? Because if you do understand those key foundational factors, you'll know how to actually move and address the actual problem. So always remain calm in the situation. Even though if your woman gets all fired up and things get heated or whatever it may be, you have to remain calm, speak articulately, let them say whatever they got to say. I know it may be irritating. You want to get in there, you want to get a quick little jab in there. Stop, center yourself, remain calm, let everything just occur and speak. Gentlemen, when you're speaking to a woman, the best advice that I could ever give you is think logically, but speak emotionally. Because if you try to speak logically, especially in a possible heated situation like that, it will A, get irritated at you, or two, it won't solve anything and it'll probably just make it worse. Learn how to have that flow of emotion, so be able to touch her heart, right? Have her feel like she's being heard, like her thoughts are being heard, so she is validated and she feels like you're appreciating and showing that grace and passion and love. And always focus on the problem, not each other. Like, darling, I want to work through this. I want to solve this and have some sort of level of compassion and understanding and that level of compromise so you guys can solve the problem, not each other.
So glad that you pointed that out, Joe, because, and let me know if I'm off base on this, but what I've found is that a lot of men, when a woman is like complaining about something or, they get in a fight or something, he'll take the problem on as himself and he really tries to fix it. Like he feels like he's a failure or he didn't do something right because she's upset. And I mean, that's just what I've seen. And really, a lot of the time, you have to understand that that's not true. Like, the problem is the problem, and you guys as a couple are against the problem. And for me, I think it's funny that when you're like, yeah, you have to speak emotionally and things like that, because in my relationship now, it's so much better when we just say what we need. Like, hey, I just need you to listen to this, or hey, can you give me some advice on this, or hey, I really just need you to validate me. I don't need you to give me advice right now. Like, we straight up, just honest to God, say, like, I don't need him to try and guess what I need, because I just tell him. And we don't fight ever. Sometimes we have difficult conversations, but like before, when we didn't know how to communicate like that, was awful, right? Because someone would get offended or like not know what the other person was trying to convey, and then they would shut down and all their blocks would come up, right? And working through that sucks. So if you can do anything, develop communication where you just don't assume the other person knows what you need, or you don't assume what they need. Ask them, like, if you don't know what they need, like, hey, do you just need me to listen right now, or do you need me to help solve this? It makes your life 1,000 times easier, because usually women do not need you to solve anything. They just want to talk about it, okay? They just like to talk. And sometimes and if you don't have the capacity, it's okay to say, hey, like, I really want to understand this, but I just don't have the capacity right now. Like, I'm invested in a project or something like that. Like, develop that kind of communication is how I've found it to be easier for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are a lot of good points. But gentlemen, everything that we're talking about right now, and especially the level of communication, that will only work if the woman that you're dealing with is emotionally mature as well, right? And has that respect and that mutual understanding, and she respects your place in the relationship as the masculine male. Because if you're not dealing with that kind of woman, it doesn't matter what the hell comes out of your mouth. You're wrong. You're done. There's no communication. There's no compromise. You're wasting your breath.
Well, and chances are, if you're not in your masculine, you're not going to be with a girl who's mature, because like attracts like. So I hate to be the hard pill to swallow person here, but if there's one dysfunctional person, there's going to be two dysfunctional people in the relationship. If you're like, oh, women are toxic, like, there's something within you that is attracted to that or is mirroring that. Like, that's just how it is. So, like, if you're like, my spouse is toxic and this and that, like, either some part of you wanted to save that person or felt like you needed to be there or like was validated by that, right? Because healthy people are not attracted to toxic people, because we see that and we're like, no way, dude. Like, you just don't. You're like, you have boundaries, you know red flags, and you only gravitate towards other healthy people, right? So it always reflects back on us. We have to take a deep look.
Nope. Absolutely.
I was gonna say, you have anything to elaborate on that, Joe?
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that one. There's not enough time in the night for my personal experiences with that.
Okay, so you got some stories here.
Oh, I got some stories. That could be a podcast or a topic on its own, honey.
Oh boy. Well, we'll save that for a different day. We'll squeeze that juice a little later. But as we near the end of the night, guys, I don't want to keep you here all Friday, but I do want to answer any last minute questions that you might have for Joe. So does anybody have any last minute things to ask? And Chaz said, something that he says in his relationships is, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. That's a great thing. Like I always say, is there anything I can do to support you right now? Or, sometimes you don't even have to say anything. Supporting someone can sometimes be the easiest job ever. Like, you just have to literally be there.
Yeah, I mean, especially if their love language is quality time, your presence can sometimes just be enough for them. But it's like, never force your help out of someone.
Yes.
Like, that line of just closing them down, drawing them further away, because it's like, oh, they're going through this. Like, no, there's nothing you can do to help right now. I'm just kind of doing my own thing. But then you try to force them to open up. You try to solve their problem for them, right? All it's going to do is, piss them off, close them off, whatever it may be, because it's not your thing, right? You can't save them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually something me and Jamal talked about. I think last night we literally talked about how sometimes when you try to save someone, you prolong their pain because they're not deciding, right? Like, you're trying to make their journey, like, you're trying to control it for them, and just like, you can't do that. Like, you just have to hold space. And like, even though you might know the exact right way to do it, like, they have to decide. They have to decide. So, it looks like, Susan, did you have a question? Because you raised your hand. So everybody's just typing their questions in the chat so that we can just read them off and have it be really fluid. So if you do, I'll just give it another, oh, there's a Q&A over here I missed. Yeah, she said, you need to understand each other. Yeah, absolutely. Even not in male and female relationships, like communication and understanding each other, and like, that's the foundation. Like, if you don't understand yourself, I think first, you can't ask for what you want. And then how can the other person satisfy your needs? You subconsciously get resentful of them because they're not fulfilling your needs, but you don't even know what they are. Insanity. That's what that is.
But it happens more often than not because people don't know. They don't know what they want. They don't know, what the other person wants. Boundaries, communications, whatever it may be. So they may be communicating what they want, and then everything still goes great. And they go, "What happened?" Well, dude, you were so focused elsewhere that you actually didn't know what you truly wanted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So true. Wow, this is amazing. So awesome, guys. It looks like that is the end of our session together. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Joe, for joining us. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us on a Friday night. It's been amazing. This will be up for 24 hours for for you guys forever. So also, if you guys log into Kajabi, you will see all of the videos so far uploaded this weekend. So if you want to rewatch any of them on the weekend, get ready for Monday, go ahead and do that. And or else I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on Monday, guys.